Hey there, internet strangers, Truthin here. Welcome to the video. Today, we're going to be talking about Doom Eternal, The Ancient Gods, Part 1. And I'm just going to say it off the bat, I've re-recorded this video twice because I've been unsatisfied with it, and it's taken me a while to get this out. But I wanted to do sort of a review. Won't be with a score or anything like that, but I wanted to just share my experience. Worth noting then how I gained the experience. I did a completely blind playthrough on Nightmare difficulty the first time through, and then I've messed around with it some since. And I haven't watched anybody else play, haven't watched any other videos. I'm actually really excited to catch up on the last few weeks of Doom content from around YouTube. But all that said, I wanted to do this the way that I wanted to do it, where Doom got to teach me the new steps in the Doom dance as we went. We're going to start chronologically with level 1. This might be my favorite level in a Doom game ever. You just pick up where the base game left off, you have all of your weapons fully upgraded, all your mods, all your runes, everything that you need to have to just go bananas. And you're going to need all of that, because there's a lot more demons and a lot higher tier of the demons that you're used to seeing. I felt kind of like I do when I play music sometimes, where you just kind of get in a flow state, except instead of like making sounds, you just make blood and guts go everywhere. It's just awesome. As for some actual commentary to the quality of the DLC, all three of the main arenas in this first level are awesome, and they are sprawling. The first one has 6 vertical levels if you count monkey bars. The second arena is just huge, and it's a great place to show off your meat hook mastery and your ballista jump skills so that you can move around the arena. The last one is a beautiful figure 8 kind of pattern that's got tight corners and then a big open section in the middle, but only on the top floor and the bottom floor. Bottom line, no arena game is better than its arenas, and these arenas are masterfully done. That said, this level does an awesome job as well of contrasting those huge arenas with tiny little hallways with tyrants in them.
Oh my gosh! So much damage just came out of me so fast. Oh my goodness.
The game keeps you out of your comfort zone and forces you to stay on your toes to deal with whatever it throws at you. And speaking of the game throwing things at you, it's a perfect time to talk about the new enemy that we encounter, the turret. I really enjoyed the turret. I know that it's kind of static, but it's a pressure unit that requires precision to deal with. It also does something unique for Doom and other arena shooters. It's something that's present in other shooters, specifically multiplayer ones, but it gives you an opportunity to gain a strengthened position. I know in arena shooters there's not supposed to be safe areas, quote unquote, and it doesn't mean that there are if you kill a turret, but if you take out one of the turrets, it's one less thing in a little area. You've hollowed out a spot on the map for yourself to kind of bounce around in, a little more secure. And if you don't deal with them instantly, as there's often many more demons that are, I guess, a more pressing threat, it still adds to that ferocity of movement and speed needed to survive that Doom is known for. So to wrap up level 1, the word I'd use to describe it is pressure. This map does a great job of keeping the pressure on you, keeping your speed up, keeping you on your toes. Whether that be by throwing 2 marauders at you at once, which that was an awesome fight, or electrifying the floors, or changing the size of the arena. You just have to be a complete Doom player, and it feels really good. You get to use everything that you've learned. Let's move on to level 2. The creativity and arena design for the second level is also insane. I love the dog that goes around and makes you little safe areas. I love the Trial of Malgog arenas. And compared to the purple goo, I even love those yellow poison slow gas sack things that are spread across this map. They're still annoying, which is what any area denial tool should be, but they're infinitely better than the purple goo, and I will take them every single time. As far as the fights in this level go, I love that they're grueling, that you think that they're over, but then there's another wave that comes at you afterwards. I really enjoyed fighting the buffed Marauder in such a small spot. I thought that was pretty inventive. And I even really initially loved the Spirit. We're going to talk about the Spirit more at the end of this video, but I want to actually play my live reaction to it from my blind playthrough from stream. Alright, where is she?
No, it already got inside the next one. I'm so bad. I'm in trouble. No! Oh my gosh, you have literally 2 seconds to deal with it. I love that. That is so savage and difficult.
I really, really love the idea of the Spirit. And it's definitely a way cooler implementation than the Summoner was in Doom 2016. A speed-boosted, unstaggerable, buffed health demon coming at you that you just have to kill is awesome. It's that do better, faster, harder mentality that pushes you in Doom to be so fast and so precise. One of the things I mentioned earlier was wanting to learn as I played the game. So the first time that I was shown a spirit, I experimented. I was like, do I kill the spirit first? Oh wait, if I don't kill it with this, certain way after, it's just going to go into the other Baron that's right there. Do I go Ice Bomb and kill the other Baron first? And as other arenas came and went, I especially think of the first trial of Malgog, where there's a spider running around with it. I just killed the other 4 spiders first, then saved it for last. Maybe that's not the smartest way to do it, but it avoided the most annoying part of the experience, having to actually kill her with the Mean Beam. I even love the fact that you have to set up a safe area, using grenades or explosives or whatever else to kill the spirit. Otherwise, other things are just going to come kill you while you're using the Mean Beam on it. But that becomes less and less engaging, especially as spirits become a more normalized part of the arenas going forward. I wasn't necessarily disappointed at this point, but I had a nagging feeling in the back of my head that this could have been done better. But anyway, we round out the end of the second level with a couple of things. One being that fog arena, which was easily my least favorite arena in the whole DLC, and maybe in Doom ever. That kind of level design moves away from the brutal but fair experience that I've come to love in Doom. And maybe that's what Doom was like back in the day, but I've only ever played 2016 and the Doom Eternal. I also didn't like that it felt like my best option was to use boring mods like micro missiles or lock-on rockets to deal with things that I just couldn't see. And design-wise, the arena was completely flat and just like an oval with minimum even cover inside of it. It was just boring. I felt like the fog made the level design be worse because they couldn't do like a big aerial arena for you to go dash around and use monkey bars and stay in the air and really use your skills. It's just that spraying bullets into the dark didn't feel very doomy to me, or very skillful. And then the level ends with a very interesting, granted it was really interesting, boss fight, but it was just kind of short and didn't feel super inspired. I think I expected a little bit more after having, wandered around that boss fight for the entire level, not knowing what was going to come and knowing that it was going to be a big deal for like the story of the game. But either way, up to this point, it's minor nitpicks and one arena that I didn't enjoy. Still enjoying the crap out of this DLC, had a smile on my face this whole level as well. If you've made it this far into the video and you've seen the title, and then you've heard the things that have come out of my face, you're probably kind of confused, and rightfully so. The things that really disappoint me come together in the third level. So we're about to start that, but before I do that, I want to touch on some odds and ends that are kind of honorable mentions in the good category. I'm going to just fastball these, so hang on to your butts. The 3 distinct art styles for each level are amazing. I love the fact that there were still Slayer gates, and the arena for it was awesome. Most of the arenas throughout all 3 levels have really interesting pathing options beyond just circles. There's figure 8s, there's C shapes, there's other things that you can get into on a higher level that I really enjoyed. The story in this DLC is the best yet when it comes to a Doom game. Plus, I love the intern guy.
Alright, ready for launch, Doom guy. I'm sorry.
The new support runes are awesome. I really love the weak point one. And unlocking skins by just beating the secret encounters was really fun. Yes! I think that's a nice touch. And the soundtrack is fantastic. You wouldn't even have known that somebody else had taken over the job after all the drama had there not been all the drama. Let's hop into the third level. First thing I want to get out of the way. This level, as far as level design and traversal and arenas, was still fantastic. And this level, I don't know a better word for it than this, but visually striking. Somehow the art of the level kind of matched the intensity of the fights that were happening on it, even while not being in the flames and lava of hell. Sensory information coming into my brain while I was trying to navigate it. It just felt and looked really good. I also love the level of difficulty of this level. I mean, having 3 barons charging at you in a map that's kind of small compared to some of the other arenas that we fought in, that was intense. One of the highlights of the entire DLC was the slaughter room with 1,000 pinkies in it and all the blood punch pickups. That was just stupid fun. And then enter the new enemies. The Spectre Whiplash makes way too much sense, make the most annoying enemy in the game. Invisible, I loved it, 100%. Can't believe that wasn't already in the base game. But then there's the Bloodmaker. This huge, awesome looking angel demon thing that ends up being the biggest meh in the whole DLC. This thing is like the anti-Marauder. They're similar in the fact that they're both invulnerable most of the time. You have to attack at specific moments. But the Marauder is aggressive to a fault. It's always in your face, it's always applying pressure, it's making you do something. And that's why I think it's really well done as far as game design is concerned.
That's unfortunate.
But this thing is the most passive enemy in the entire game. Its light attacks deal next to no damage, and he doesn't move towards you, he just kind of strafes around. And then, if the arena's large, which a lot of them in this DLC are, you can legitimately just ignore it until you're ready to deal with it. You have to be in a very confined space, which happens later in the game, we'll come back to that, or just be moving slowly, which, if the Doomslayer is a race car, as the devs have described him, you should basically never be doing for him to become an issue, because what he will do is kind of just like fly/teleport behind you and blast you with Mega Beam from a Snorlax that also slows you and ensures that you die. So if it does hit you, like it does punish you, there is that at least. Its armor opens up for it to do either of its meaningful attacks, and it becomes completely stationary. You shoot it one time in the face and it's gone. I remember the first time I came across one, I shot, a couple of the imps that ran at me, and then I headshot this thing, and my literal thought was, oh, that's it? I don't want it to make it sound like I'm complaining because it's too easy or it's too hard, but I want to be frank. I think that this enemy is a downgrade from so many of the other ones that have been in the game before, and from the version of this enemy that could have been in this game. And once that thought entered my head, that idea of things being a downgrade, I couldn't help but also apply it to the spirit. Not what it does to other enemies, but the act of physically killing the spirit afterwards. I know that sounds kind of lame, but I want you to think with me about the two contrasting systems that this game has already implemented and could have expanded in this DLC, but instead completely ignored. The first is the weak point system. Neither of these new enemies use the weak point system. Granted, you can headshot the Bloodmaker, and that, I guess, could count as a weak point, but that's more of an execute mechanic like the Maker Drone. The Spirit can only be killed by one weapon. Not even just one weapon, one mod of one weapon, and in my opinion, one of the more boring ones, as it locks you down facing one direction and having to hold your crosshair in a certain space. Every other enemy in the game that has weak points, you can cycle through. You can Precision Bolt, Ballista, and then Sticky Bomb. The second system, if you want to call it that, or design philosophy that I think that the two new enemies both ignore, is that of the Fun Zone. If you've been around Doom Eternal for a while, the idea is that the game is supposed to keep you cycling through all of your tools and keeping you moving quickly to just tear through the demons in front of you. The basic idea is that the more active you are as a player, quick switching, using combos, all that fun stuff, the more fun you'll be having. The Bloodmaker then is kind of like the anti-fun zone. As a player, you have no reason to interact with it except for at one specific moment. The Spirit, unfortunately, also kind of falls into that category, as there's literally one weapon mod that can be used against it. It also makes it where you feel like you can't use your Ballista or your Plasma Gun in the fights leading up to it when you know that there's a Spirit around, because if you don't have enough ammo to one cycle the Spirit with the Plasma Beam, it just hops into the enemy closest to it and you have to start over. At the end of the video, I have some suggestions for how to make some changes to these that I think would make them better, so hang on for those. But for now, I think the perfect example of all of this coming together and being kind of a letdown is the final boss fight. Now what you're seeing is one of my successful runs at killing the final boss, the last section of it, and it takes less than 2 minutes. So I'll try to keep my explanation shorter than this clip, where the game should be crescendoing into like a knife-edge balanced, violent mess of madness. Instead, all of these downgrades kind of just come together and make this not a miserable experience, but not a very fun one either. You remember earlier how I said the only time that the Bloodmaker is really an issue is when you're put into a small arena or forced to move slow? Guess what? You get to do both of those things in this boss fight. The arena is very small, and it gets smaller as it's moving around, as certain areas of it become inaccessible to you because there's no demons to meat hook around to or ballista jump around from. There's just two teleporters. And you also have to be very slow and look in one direction while beaming spirits, because if you don't get them on the first cycle, they just go right back into the same heavy demon that you just got it out of. You can't interact with the thing unless it's deciding to attack you, and when it does decide to attack you, it generally has teleported behind you while you're beaming a spirit. Granted, you can work around this, you can make sure the area is as safe as possible, but it's just not very fun. This also compounds with the fact that the boss fight itself isn't very fun. Earlier on, you get to shoot Samura and he flies around, and that's interesting enough, but By the end of it, you're just fighting spirit buffed demons. That means that you can't stagger anything, there's only 2 imps on the floor for you to get ammo back from, and you just kind of have to do solely DPS things. It was almost pointless to use any weapons other than lock-on rockets, micro missiles, or the chain gun, but those are some of my, at least personally, least favorite weapon mods. It also worked against the fun zone system as mentioned earlier, because if you fired 3 arbalist shots from your ballista or 4 regular ballista shots, you would no longer have enough ammo to 1 cycle of spirit. All that said, I don't think that these new enemies are just complete garbage or whatever. I just can't help but shake the feeling that Doom already had better systems in place than the ones that were used with these enemies. I guess then any of the disappointment came from my own expectations, as I really wanted to see 2 things in this DLC. I wanted Doom Eternal to truly nail a boss fight, as the Gladiator and the Icon of Sin fights are good, they're fun, but they're not up to the same level of just the standard gameplay of the game. I also wanted to see the DLC lean heavily into the great combat systems developed, the weak point system, and the fun zone from the base game, but that's just kind of not what happened. It used an existing mechanic of the headshots and the Maker drones for the Blood Maker, which I think is kind of anticlimactic, and this new thing with the Spirit where you have to use 1 weapon mod. As promised earlier, if I had to change anything, I would just change those 2 enemies to fit within that system. For example, for the Spirit, it would make it where it would still use plasma ammo and you would have to be careful about your resources, but make the Spirit vulnerable to a max charged heat blast from the plasma gun. Not one of the weaker 2, a max charged one. Or even a full charged destroyer blade blast. You keep all of the good things, from having to set up a safe area to kill the thing, plasma weapons only, and especially the very short amount of time that you have to deal with it before it transfers to another enemy. As far as the Bloodmaker goes, this was a little harder because I don't want to just say, we'll make it more aggressive, because the game does need enemies that are kind of sneaky, and I guess that the Bloodmaker, as big and gaudy and ridiculous as it looks, is kind of sneaky, which anyway is visually confusing, but I think at minimum it needs to interact with the player more. It needs to be something that the player can't just ignore until it's ready to deal with. I think the easiest way to make that change? Use the weak point system, one of the highlights of the game that's already in it. Make there be a weak point on the thing's chest or on both of its arms or somewhere to where if you hit these weak points, then its armor will open up and you'll get a chance to take that headshot. You'll at least have to earn the kill. So, time to wrap everything up. This DLC is a complicated one to wrap my feelings together on. As mentioned, I've recorded audio for this 3 different times, and one review would have been really positive, one would have been overly negative, and I feel like this one is just the most honest. This DLC was confusing. I never really give scores with my reviews, but if I had to give this one, it would still be really high. I loved so much of this DLC, but the fact that all the things that were truly new felt like a downgrade from some of the systems that were already in place in the base game, and then came together in a really disappointing way. I can't help but walk away from this DLC feeling like it could have been better. That opinion might be unpopular, but if it is, tell me about it in the comment section and we can talk about it there. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like on it. If you like the channel, feel free to subscribe. We play Doom on stream sometimes too, and you can feel free to check that out. Either way, I appreciate you internet strangers taking the time to watch this video, and maybe I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Okay, so this has had so many really awesome big arenas and then all these little tiny condensed spaces. It is really challenging you to like be the best Doom player in all sorts of situations. Holy crap.